This is your sign to make homemade Vietnamese style spring rolls, or you may call them summer rolls. I'm going to show you two ways using chicken and shrimp. And first, I'm starting with a delicious sauce. This is sort of a sweet and sour fish sauce. Here I have 1 clove of garlic that I'm going to mash and finely mince. I'll also thinly slice and chop part of this small shallot. The ratios are really up to you. I'm also going to mince half of a small red chili pepper, and I remove the seeds. I don't want this overly spicy, but if you like spice, add it all. Here I have 1 medium carrot that I'm going to julienne. I'm using the julienne attachment on my peeler. Here in a bowl, I have my shallot, garlic, and chili pepper. I have 1 1/4 cups of warm water. I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of sugar, give it a mix. And I actually started with 1 cup of warm water, but eventually I will add that 1/4 cup. So into the bowl with the sugar water mixture, 4 tablespoons of fresh lime juice. Here I will be using fish sauce. I am going to go with 4 tablespoons of fish sauce. Just know that fish sauce is salty. So again, these ratios are to your preference. I've added it, I've mixed it, and this is where I add the carrot. Give it another mix, and you'll want to taste. I did taste this, and this is why I decided to add that extra 1/4 cup of water. So in all, 1 1/4 cups. Give it a mix, and I'm just going to let this set and just cover it with a lid and store it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. Here I have boiling water, and I'm going to cook my shrimp. I'm using 1 pound of medium peeled and deveined shrimp. You could use large. I just happen to have medium shrimp in my freezer. So once it's cooked, which it won't take long, I'm going to remove it from the pot of boiling water into an ice water bath to stop the cooking process. And once it's chilled, I'm going to remove the water and slice it in half. And that'll be the prepped shrimp. In the same boiling water, I'm going to cook 2 bundles of rice noodles. And it only takes a minute of boil time. I'm going to remove it and place it into a bowl with cold water to stop the cooking process. Now I'm just going to drain and cut the noodles, and these are ready. You could also dress them in sesame oil, but I just leave as is. So here are my prepped rice noodles. I'm also going to be using the spring rolls skin. This is what I'll be wrapping these rolls in. And for fresh ingredients today, I'll be using lettuce leaves, mini cucumbers that I've sliced. I'll be using fresh mint leaves, basil leaves, and Thai basil leaves. You could also add cilantro, chives, garlic chives, carrot, daikon radish, it all works. And here is my prepped shrimp. I'm going to take a sheet of the spring roll skin and quickly submerge it and soak it into room temp water or cool water. And even after submerging it and soaking it, it's going to feel stiff. That's okay, because as you set it on your cutting board, it'll eventually soften, and you sort of want to work quickly. So I'm adding my rice noodles, all the fresh herbs and lettuce on top, a slice of cucumber, rice noodles, and then I'm going to add 5 pieces of shrimp because these are kind of small, but 4 halves definitely works if you're using large shrimp. So I'm just going to carefully roll it, and as you can see, it completely softened, so you sort of want to work quickly as to not tear the skin. And working with a wood cutting board is what you'll want to do because this does get sticky. And you just tightly roll it, and once you get 1 or 2 in, you sort of get a rhythm and get used to rolling it. So here we go, and you'll want to repeat the process. So I want to mention this. A lot of you may comment that these are technically called summer rolls, and I believe the Vietnamese name for these translates to salad rolls, but I am going to call them spring rolls because most people, when they are searching for this recipe, they do search for spring rolls or Vietnamese style spring rolls, and I want people to be able to find my video. So this is why I titled it that. But yes, you would be correct in saying that these would be called summer rolls. So comment down below some of your favorite spring or summer roll fillings. I like to switch it up, especially with the fresh ingredients. You can even add avocado slices into this, which I have done before. If I don't have shrimp or chicken, I just add tons of veggies with the noodles and avocado. It's so good. And the dipping sauces, sometimes I make the vinegar, fish sauce, dipping sauce, or the peanut sauce. It all works and it's so good. These are so addictive, by the way. I have to make so many for my family and I when it's time to make these. And with the summer heat upon us, these are perfect. So this one's done, and you can see, you can push around the shrimp to kind of make it presentable, but time to eat. So next up, I'm going to show you how I make my chicken spring rolls. They are so flavorful, and I'm starting with a marinade. So in a bowl, I'm going to add cooking oil. Here I'm adding soy sauce, Shaoxing cooking wine, some 5-spice. I'm also adding freshly minced garlic. I'm also going to add some onion powder. Now I'm just going to give this a really good mix. So I'm going to add my chicken breast. And these are about a 1/2 inch thick. In some places it might be a little over, but I like to do little cross-hatch scoring on the thickest part. So I'm going to cover this with cling film, refrigerate, and marinate for a couple of hours. In the meantime, let's make the peanut sauce. What I'm going to do is add a tablespoon of cooking oil, a heaping teaspoon of minced garlic, saute my garlic, add 1.5 tablespoons of chili paste, or leave it out. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of hoisin sauce. By the way, you don't have to have this spicy or with heat, but I just think it balances the flavor in the sauce. I'll start with a teaspoon of sugar. And like the sugar and things like that, you can adjust the ratios of the sauce to suit your preference. Now I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. Now I'm just going to mix this, combine well. And if you're doing this and it starts to bubble a little too rapidly here or simmer rapidly, just lower your heat source. You don't want this to burn. Okay, so everything is combined. I'm still working with a low heat. Now this is hot water. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of hot water and work it in. And at this point, you will want to add just a tablespoon at a time of hot water until you reach the consistency you're looking for in your sauce. Okay, so here is my finished peanut sauce. I started with basically a 1/4 cup of hot water, and I just worked my way up to about a 1/2 cup of water. But like I stated earlier, the consistency of your peanut butter sauce or your dipping sauce is going to be to your preference. We have a local restaurant in Houston that does that. They like to add crushed peanuts and garnish with fresh chopped scallion, and it's so good. There we go. Okay, so now it's time to cook the chicken. This has been marinating for 2 hours in my refrigerator, and I actually took it out 20 minutes ago to take the chill off of the chicken. It actually cooks a lot better when you do that. Add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. You want to get a good sear and brown for a minute on each side. Okay, so that has cooked for 1 minute on the opposite side. I'm going to flip it. One more time, cover with the lid. I'm going to lower the heat all the way to low and let it cook on low, covered with the lid for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the heat off at a minute cook time with the lid on. And now the heat is completely off. I'm going to let it set here with the lid on. Do not lift the lid for 10 minutes. Just like this. These are just tender, juicy, and delicious. And you don't have to cook your chicken on the stovetop. Sometimes I put it in a 400-degree oven and bake for about 13 to 15 minutes, again, depending on how thick cut your chicken is, but whatever method you want to cook your protein works. Okay, so now for the rice vermicelli noodles. So I think I'm going to do 2 bundles. That should be enough today, hopefully. And once they get soft enough, I'm actually going to cut them in half or by thirds to make them manageable for putting them in the rolls. Okay, so here are my noodles, and what I like to do is press out any excess moisture. Let's start making these rolls, but I want to go over what I'm using. So here I have a combination of butter lettuce leaves that I had a little bit left over, and some iceberg lettuce I just cut into little manageable pieces and leaves. I have some chives that I had some from the store, and I cut them in half. They were like really long, and I just cut them into these little pieces. I have some fresh basil that was overgrown in my garden. This is why it has some of these little burnt
tinges to it. It's been really hot, but I needed to trim my basil plant today, so I'm using fresh basil. I have my fresh mint, fresh carrot, and what I did with the carrot, and I did it with the rest of the ingredients as well, I took a large carrot, cut it finger length, basically I cut it in half. Then I started to cut it into thin slices, and then the thin slices, I basically cut it into these little thin strips. Here I have some cucumber, and what I did is took mini cucumbers. I cut off the ends, I sliced it lengthwise down the middle, and then just did thin slices. And here I have some pickled daikon radish, and that's actually optional. Carrot, cucumber, lettuce, and your herbs. Your fresh basil and mint works. I have my prepped vermicelli noodles and my chicken that I cut into thin slices. You're just going to take your rice paper and dunk it into the warm, this is actually kind of cold at this point, so I'll dunk it in here. Okay, so this is completely submerged. You're going to take it out of your warm water and place it right onto the cutting board. My noodles. So I got my daikon radish, my better lettuce leaf, my basil, chicken right there. So now you take it and you roll the noodles and the lettuce, then it continues to roll with the cucumber and the carrot. I'm going to tuck it in at this point. Now the chicken, and then finish it with some chives. And you can have it, you can cut them shorter, but I want them to stick out. It does get a little easier with the process. And also when you're dunking the rice paper, it's going to feel like, oh, the rice paper isn't soft enough. Don't worry, because you want to make sure you transfer it from your plate to your cutting board while it's still a little stiff, because as it sits there, just like that, it'll get really soft and tender to work with. So if you're wondering why it still feels a little stiff when you take it out of the water, trust me, the water soaks into it and it turns into the soft rice paper. So comment down below your favorite spring or summer roll that you like to make at home, because these are my favorite. Be sure to like and share this video, and I will see you in the next one.